All right, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I just got my live stream set up for Facebook, and I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen as well so we can get that going. Go to command. So the topic that I want to go over today is creating a direct mailing campaign in Command. So I've touched on the social media aspect of Command and campaigns, but I haven't really went into the direct marketing component. And I think if you are looking to have something created real quickly for a new listing or just sold, you want to pop out a quick postcard, you can do that in Command now, and you can do it with a very targeted mailing list as well. So I'm going to go over how you can create the postcards, how you can get the mailing set up, and then I did want to go over some pieces and designs as well, because you can actually upload custom designs that you created, and you can also create direct mailing pieces with that. So if you're feeling crafty and you want to put something together, with a little bit more extra investment in it, we can also go and do stuff with the designs. So mainly what I'm going to be covering today, it's just two different applets, campaigns. And as I mentioned, I did want to go into designs in a little bit as well, just so you can see that. So let's go ahead and start with campaigns. So we're in our campaigns dashboard here. As you can see, I have my overview. This is for my social media stuff. And I do have a section under here called direct mail. So that's where you're actually able to track your direct mailing pieces that you would have sent out or created in the past. And as I mentioned, it's a very good way to create something quickly if you needed something put out in a couple hours. The cool thing about the direct mailing is that if you have it created within the day before 3 p.m., they actually have same day turnaround, and you'll typically get that mailing piece out within the week, which is pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to go over how you can create that, and yeah, so let's get started. So to get a mailing piece created, if we're going to be doing any sort of direct mailing, we want to go where it says create new campaign. And we have this option here called direct mail. And you're going to notice this screen here. It looks very similar to if you're creating a social media, like a paid ad. I'm just going to use here test 6.8. And it does have similar types of goals. Now, I don't think these goals are going to affect anything with the campaign right now. So I'm just going to select, let's say, advertise listing. And as we scroll down here, you have two different options. You have default templates provided, which is going to allow you to create one based on a set of templates that KW is providing to you. And then you can also upload a custom template. As I mentioned, we're going to go through a design a little later, and you'll see how you can create a custom postcard and designs and then upload that back into your command to have set up a direct mailing piece. So let's go ahead and hit setup campaign. And the first thing it's going to ask me to do, it's going to ask me to connect this with a listing. So if anybody wants to just shout out a listing, I can pull that and we can use that as an example.
181 Nottingham Road in Ramsey.
181 Nottingham Road. Here we go. Good stuff. We'll hit select. So as soon as we find the listing we want to use, we want to hit select here. And you'll notice what it's going to do. It's going to actually start pulling in some of the details of that listing. So right away, we have the listing address, we have the price. We can also select a listing status. So right now, they also added in the ability to make this optional, which means you don't necessarily need that. But let's say it's a for sale. We're going to go ahead and hit just listed. And then we're also going to put together, this is a, how many bed and bathrooms is this? It says 2 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. 2 bathrooms, 2 full bathrooms.
Cool. Then we're going to go ahead and hit save. So basically from here, you can see it adds in the text, it adds in some of the details of that listing, like the address. And it looks like it literally just had one character left for this whole copy. So we just fit it all on the back. We're going to hit save. So then what it's going to allow me to do now, as you can see, I can also preview this as I'm going through. Right now, we didn't select the image yet, but as we're kind of putting this together, it does auto update. So we have some of the listing details on the front. On the back, we have the nice copy there, and the agent details, all that good stuff. So I'm going to close this out. Now what I can do from here is I can select the listing images. So one thing I do want to bring up with the listing images specifically is that it's going to ask you to have a high-res image. As you can see, it wants to have something at least 300 DPI. For printing purposes, it should be something high-res. So just kind of take that in consideration when you're putting together your postcard. So it does automatically pull in the images from the MLS. However, they are still low res. So I would recommend just re-uploading the front exterior or whatever image you want to use as an example. So I'm going to see if I can actually move forward with this. If it lets me, it's going to ask me for high res image. I'm just going to use a image I have on my computer here. So
Okay.
just for this specific example, I do have high res images on my computer, and I'm just going to use this one. Let's just say we're going to actually, let's use this is a pretty extravagant house, so it might not be the best example, but we'll just use that. So it's going to replace the image. And again, as I kind of move forward through here, if I save this, it's going to auto update the card as well, as you notice. So as I'm doing this, it's going to essentially update it automatically for me. And again, you want to just make sure you have a high-res image there. Now for agent details, we can add our headshot if we'd like. It's going to have the agent information here as well. We can put an email address in. I'm just going to use mine for the example here. I'll just put my details in. Okay, so I don't have my headshot on my computer right now, so I'm just going to leave that blank. It's not required, but you could upload one if you'd like. So as you're moving through here, you're going to notice, like, pretty similar to when you're setting up a social media campaign, it has like the little checks next to it to let you know that you're completed those steps. And you can preview the card the whole time as you're doing it, which is really cool. So as we're updating details and everything, it will update on this preview. And you'll also notice on the right-hand side, they do have different sized templates. So if I prefer to use a larger card, like a 6x9 or a 6x11, you can do that, and you can do the preview again. It's going to update that in real time, which is really cool. I do quite like this smaller one. So whatever you prefer, you can use. And I mentioned we can also do custom ones, which I'll go over in a little bit as we move through. Let me just make sure there's, okay, we're good. So just making sure I've let everybody in here if they're coming in. So now what you're going to see here is Market Center. So this is going to allow me to fill out the Market Center details. Again, I can pull in the images for the Market Center. In this case, this is Ridgewood. And this is it 74 Godwin? Yeah, there we go. Good stuff. And I'm going to actually pull in the logo as well. I think I have that here. I'll just use that one. There we go. So we have the logo. We have the details for the office. We can also verify that. We'll confirm. There we go. And you'll notice everything is essentially checked off here, letting me know that we're pretty much good to go. And you can get a real-time preview here again. Looking good. Ooh, that might have to be changed. Probably have to upload the square version of that. But anyway, that's all good. Click out of that. Now where it says targeting, this is where you can essentially target by local targeting. It looks like they added an option to target your database if you prefer. So if you have some sort of mailing list from your database that you want to use, it looks like you can use that now. I haven't actually played around with that too much yet, but I assume anybody who has some sort of valid postal address on their contact card, you'll be able to add them on, or you can even use it targeting by tags, as you can see. Very similar to if you're setting up some sort of smart plan. And you'll notice here, if it doesn't have an address on file, it's going to say mailing address is missing. So basically, if it's not finding an address on file, it won't let you move forward with a targeting your database campaign. Oops, sorry about that. Just saw something in chat.
So all your things have to have an address to do target my database?
Yeah, if you notice that my contacts in my database, they don't have an address. So it gives me that option saying mailing address is missing.
Okay.
So I guess hypothetically, if you had, let's say you had a geo farm list that you put into your command and you had them all set up with those mailing addresses, you can easily put them set up on like a tag, and then you can pull that tag in here to target your database. I'm going to be doing local targeting, which is going to allow me to create like a radius search, you'll see. And I saw a question in the chat here. Can you target both your database and local targeting? I would say you probably can, but you would have to create two separate campaigns. So you can't do it all at the same time, but if you wanted to do that, you can create one for local targeting and then another for targeting your database specifically. And then Heidi's asking, can you add your logo to the card? Yes, you can. So if you're saying whether or not you have like your own custom logo or a team logo, you could. I did add the logo to my card for the office. Unfortunately, I didn't have it formatted correctly. I believe you have to have it in a square format. So I would probably go back and fix that and re-upload it, but you could add your logo on there. And when I'm working with the custom designs, it's a little bit easier to do with the custom logos and all that stuff. So I'm going to go over that next. But basically what we're doing here right now is we're setting up a direct mailing piece with templates already provided by KW. And I'm kind of just walking through these steps here to create that. So as soon as we hit save, the last thing it's going to ask me to do is my budget here, which is how many cards did I want to distribute and what type of postage. So if you're doing a smaller card like this 4x6, they do automatically give you first class mail. So it doesn't give you a standard mail option. It's just going to give you first class. If you select any of these other card sizes, it does give you both a standard and first class mailing. So by using a smaller card, you do have a little bit of an advantage by having first class just offered by default. And 59 cents per card isn't too bad either. So it does give you an estimate here. So $118 for 200 cards. That's not too bad. And for a 4x6 that we're essentially putting together in a few minutes, that's pretty good. And the quality is really nice too. So if you've sent a card out through command before and you've seen the actual print card, it does look very nice. Andy, you're asking how long does it usually take? So the standard turnaround, if you have this created before 3 p.m., they turn it around in a day and they typically send it out next day. And it's probably about a week. So they'll probably have the cards out within, the next 7 days or so. It's pretty quick stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. So we saved our first step here, which is configuring the campaign. The second step here is configuring your targeting. So this is where the fun begins. We're going to go ahead and hit step 2. It's going to ask me if I'm sure about creating this campaign. One thing I want to bring up real quickly. Once you go to step 2, it does not allow you to go back to edit your card. So just consider that if you had noticed you need to make a change on the card at some point, you would probably just want to have this saved as a draft before you go ahead and go to targeting, because at that point it sends it over to the system real mailers to have the targeting set up, and it doesn't allow you to go back to edit the card, unfortunately. So just as a quick heads up, just so you know. And again, you can always preview the card as you're doing it. So if you notice something in here that you don't like specifically, you can go back and change it before you have it sent to step 2. So the only real limitations with these particular templates is that they are pre-created for you. So you can't really change anything with the layout. That's what we're going to do with the custom designs. But the ability to have like a handful of templates already available just to kind of walk through these steps and have it created, I find that to be pretty useful, because you don't have to be a design whiz to create these. You're just kind of walking through the steps, selecting the image, and then it's going to do the heavy lifting for you. But as we move into step 2, this is where you really get to kind of set up the file that you want to have. Ooh, and it's saying invalid file. I wonder where it's saying that. Hold on one sec. Let's adjust the cropping here. Maybe it's this one. Let's see. I'll try uploading it in a different image there. Maybe that will work. 1 second. Sorry about that. So let's see. Got a little bit of a snag there. 1 second. Sorry. And if that doesn't work, I do have a template already created I can use, so it's all good. Okay, I think it's going to let me through now, so just give this a second. Sorry about that. So what it's doing right now is it's going to take me into this system called Real Mailers. That's going to help me develop my target that I want to send these out to. So I'm just going to give that a second. Hopefully it loads up. Ooh. What's going on here? Try that once more. If it doesn't work, I do have a saved one. Here we go. Very good. So you're going to notice this is step 2. And step 2 is going to allow you to select an area that you want to have these cards sent to. So by default, it's always going to select the area around the address. So if you want to have that card sent out just to that neighborhood around the address, you can do that. As you can see, it does select a radius. It's a circle. You could also do this polygon tool, which is really cool. And the polygon tool allows you to create a radius with like this line tool. And let's say I want to specifically select maybe like this area around here, right? We'll do like this here. So maybe I want to have those cards selected to that sliver of this area. And it creates that with this little radius tool. And if I delete it, by default, it's always going to recenter that around the address, as you can see. You can select a increased amount of cards if you wanted to. That's going to increase the radius. So around that radius of the address. And if you hover over those little dots, it does give you some expanded information about that home and the address. Pretty cool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So all those little circles signify one address. And in this case, it's doing 300. Again, I can do by default of 200, which is the original. It's going to automatically redesign this target. Now, if we go down here, there's going to be a bunch of different filters. You can filter by property type, single family, multifamily. You can go by bedrooms. So let's say I want to just kind of limit it to a specific amount of bedrooms. maybe the square footage, the square footage here. Year built, so you can do it by specifically when the home was built. So maybe you're looking for something a little bit in the more modern. You can go like here. And you can also expand this by years last sold. So you can see here right now the default is going all the way back to the 1800s. Pretty long time ago. But let's say I want to get into at least the 90s, or maybe even like the early 2000s. Then last sell for price, maybe I'm going to be targeting a specific area. And as I'm doing that, it is expanding the radius. So it's trying to find homes around that area that can fit within the criteria of the filters. And again, you can still go ahead and use that polygon tool if you prefer. Otherwise, it's going to do a radius around the address, as you can see. And you can also expand the amount of cards. So as I'm doing the filters, I can expand the cards. It's going to reconfigure this. And in this case, it looks like it is going a little bit into New York because it's trying to find homes within the criteria I selected. So depending on how you're going to be doing this, you can, essentially fill this out however you want. Let's see if there's anybody in here. Nope. Cool. Anybody have questions so far as I'm going through this piece of it specifically? Cool.
So this today we're doing like a direct mail campaign, right?
Yeah.
Not an online mail.
Yeah. So this is going to be more so for physical mailings and postcards.
Okay.
And this is a tool that's also part of the campaigns. So
okay.
This is one piece that I've wanted to cover and I haven't had a chance to. So really wanted to focus on this one. But if anybody has questions about any other piece of campaigns, we can go over that towards the end.
Will it direct mail to your database if you want to? Or if you select a certain number of people in your database?
Yeah, so the other option that they had available was targeting your database.
Right.
And I guess depending on how you have your database set up, let's say you did have a list of people that you wanted to send a postcard out to. You can upload them in your database, maybe have them tagged under a specific town or a specific city. And you want to just send those people that postcard, you can select target my database. And as long as they have a valid postal address on file, it will allow you to select them to have a card sent out. So that's something I haven't really played around with too much, but it looks like it would be functional as long as they have a mailing address. And then you would be able to target your database versus doing this custom targeting, which I'm doing right now. Cool. So as I'm configuring this, we selected the 300 cards. I can do, I think the minimum here, it looks like it's 1. I wouldn't do that many. We're going to keep it at 300. I think that's good. So again, it's going to create that nice little expanded audience. Again, if I use the polygon tool, I can also select specific areas of a town. As long as they fall into that criteria, it's going to try to find as many addresses as it can. You notice if it doesn't, it's going to actually change the amount of cards it will send out. So it's gonna basically search throughout that radius I selected, and it will adjust the amount of cards automatically depending on how many people it finds. So in this case, it only found 87, but if I want to just readjust that, I can redo it and it will find those addresses around.
Chris, does it also send you a copy of the postcard?
You could actually specify if you want one sent to you. Good question. You see, send copy to company address, which would be you. Mm-hmm. And then that will send a copy over to you. So if I go to next, the last step here is basically saying, or you can proof the card because it's going to give you a finalized proof. So that's going to be the front and back. And then it's going to say what happens next. So as I was explaining before, it does have same day processing. So as long as you submit this before 3 p.m., your mailers will go into production that same day in a fulfillment center nearest to your target area. So that's really cool. I like that they do that. UPS distro. So once it's completed, we will drop off the mailers to the nearest post office to distribute and carry to mailboxes of your recipients. And here you'll see estimated delivery is between 4 to 6 days, so about a week, and that's business days. All right, so we have this nice little front, we have the back. We can also preview the postcard here as a PDF, and I did change the image out. It's a nice little arcade room there. Looks pretty good.
Does
And
it
again,
mail?
it's also gonna format this so you don't have to worry about typing over specific areas like these here where you're not allowed to type over. Robin, did you have a question? I thought I heard you say.
Yeah, is it first class or second class mail?
This is first class. So specifically for this particular card, this size, they provide it with first class mailing by default, and it's also free, as you see. So this is the 4x6 card, and they will send that out first class for you by default.
Does it have, so if you're targeting a certain area, does it just say current resident, or does it have their specific name?
I believe it's going to have current resident here, as you can see. So even on the preview one, it's going to show it as current resident, because it's probably not going to have their actual name on it. So it's going to have current resident, their address, and then they're going to just drop it off there.
So if you use your database, will it say current resident, or will
That's a good question. I want to play around with that a little bit more, and I can test it out. I believe it would have their name on it, because as long as you have their, I mean, you would have their information. So I would believe it would. I can find out for you though.
Okay.
Cool. So basically all we would have to do from here is we can review the proof again. As you can see, we can go ahead and hit make payment, and then we would be good to go with that. They do send you an email confirming everything, and you'd be all set. So as far as creating a direct mailing piece with the defaulted templates, that's how you would do it. If we go back to the direct mailing campaign as well, you could see here any list of drafts or created cards you've made, how many were mailed, how many recipients. I don't know how it tracks the leads necessarily. I believe what it will also do is it has like a QR code connected, but I don't know if that's used for tracking leads.
So does it give you a list of the addresses that it sends to?
So right now it doesn't let you download the list. Basically, real mailers will create the radius and the mailing addresses for you by default.
Mm-hmm.
And currently it doesn't let you download any of the lists out of it. Additionally, we do have, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Prism. They're an in-house partner with us. They do a lot of like the print and design materials. If you do a direct mailing piece through Prism, you do have the ability to download your mailing list out. Right now through Command, you can't. So that's, if you needed to have the list downloaded, you can do it through Prism because they allow you to take that list out with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I wanted to do here and show you was we can also, in addition to creating a direct mailing piece with those pre-built templates, you'll notice here that there's also an option to upload a custom template. So that's what I'm going to show you next, how that works. So I'm going to go and click out of this. We're going to go into the section here called designs, and I just saw something pop up in questions.
That was me.
Can you upload a CSV list to mail? Unfortunately, not for the mailing list in particular, but what you could do is you can upload that list into your database, and you can use Target My Database.
Oh, okay.
Because you can create like a, you might create like a separated list, maybe tagged as like Woodcliff Lake.
Okay.
And that might be your mailing list for that particular campaign.
Okay.
I might have to do a video on that because I want to test it out myself.
Chris, do we have like a video on, are we using the direct mail market, no, direct email? Like, I use Constant Contact for one of my old businesses, and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do it anymore. And I know we have MailChimp, or is
Yeah.
that all connected now and working?
MailChimp does work with Command. However, there's only 2 different types of templates in Command right now that you can use for emails. There are 2 newsletter templates. I might have a video on it. If you want, I can send it to you.
That would be great.
But
I'll
yeah,
put-
you could use it in a very limited form right now. I'm hoping at some point MailChimp allows you to import your templates from MailChimp into Command, because then any campaigns or templates you created in MailChimp, you'd be able to just use in Command. And I think that would be super useful.
Yeah, I don't know why we're waiting on that, honestly. I feel that like my background is direct mail marketing and direct marketing, and everyone has their own opinions about, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, we had some, experts on a week or so ago about Instagram and Facebook and advertising and all that stuff. And they were like, you should be doing personal messages to your database, using MailChimp or Constant Contact. And I was like, I know, but no one's like that. I mean, that's what I just do on a regular basis. And I just feel like if we, it's more control of your people, of your database.
Yeah, I mean, I know specifically with Command, as I mentioned, they do have that limited connection with MailChimp. And I believe what they're trying to do for the future is to have Command email, which is basically set up for your smart plans. But the idea is that at some point they would have some sort of way to do that where you can use it for campaigns. I don't have too much information on that right now, so I don't want to like say anything, but yeah, MailChimp does work with Command in a very limited fashion. So hopefully we get a little bit more flexibility with that, because I've been using MailChimp a lot as well. And if I was able to import some of my own templates, I thought that would be really cool. So we'll see. Right now their focus isn't really with that. I'm just letting some people in here. All good. So what I want to do now is I just want to show you how you can use custom designs to also do your direct mailing pieces. And I thought this was really cool. We're going to go into designs. And if you're familiar with designs, if we click this plus sign here, we're going to have 2 different options. And it looks like they actually changed the icons. They look nice. I like them. If we hit print, and we're going to use that same listing as the example again. Let's go ahead and import photos and text from a listing. And Robin, what was the address for that one again?
181 Nottingham Road.
Okay. All right, we're going to use that again. We'll go ahead and select. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a postcard. And that postcard design, we can actually import as a custom template, and we can create a mailing piece with that. So if we prefer to use a custom design that I built, we can do that now. It's really awesome. So let's go ahead and go to listings on the left. We're going to go to for sale. And you can see here we do have some different types of templates available. Flyers, you got your brochures. We're going to use standard postcards. And I'm going to select one of the ones here. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. I like that one. So we're going to use this design as a custom template. And we did connect it with a listing. As you can see, it is a 6x4 as well. If you are feeling more adventurous, you could create a custom size design. But I like that I have this template already created and I can kind of work off of that and have a little bit more customization. So here we're going to pull in those images. We're going to go ahead and use this nice little front exterior shot there. Now we do have the listing details auto-populated as well. I'm going to go ahead and just replace those here. Now, if you saw what I was doing, I'm just gonna back up for a second. With the custom designs, any designs that you're working with in this particular system, it's gonna be mostly drag and drop. So any of these images I wanna replace, I can just drag and drop it. And that will change on the template as well. So I'm just gonna change that back to this one here. I like this one. As far as the text goes, you can do the same thing with the listing details. As you can see, I can kind of just click on the text and there's this little like rotation button there, like a recycle button. And that will replace the text on the particular template. You can also use this feature here that I also really like. It's called typewriter. It's right on the top here. And if we click the typewriter, we can change the text out here. And this was a 3-bed, 2-bath. Square footage we can also add if we want. We don't necessarily need to. I'm going to delete that. And we're just going to reformat this. And the shortcut to get this little dot, if you're curious, if you're on a Mac, it's Option 8. Unfortunately, I don't know the Windows shortcut. I'm sorry. But you can always just copy and paste that too. We do have a price range here, which is $5.25. And I don't think we have the built-in date, so I'm just going to leave that out. Take that out here. We can always put in like a different bullet point there if we'd like. So, we have a lot of space there. I might even make this a little bit larger. Make that like 12 points. Okay, that's not too bad. I'll change this one too, make it the same size. Nice 12-pointer. And we'll just recenter that. There we go. There we go. So how I did that as well, if I just click on the text box, you can rearrange it. You can move it around however you want. I'm going to just move it back to the center. You'll notice as I'm doing that too, there's this little blue line that comes across. That's your guide, and the guide helps you keep things kind of centered. And it's very helpful, especially when you're working with text and you're trying to make things more kind of consistent. So I'm just going to kind of move things around, make sure that's good. There we go. So basically that's the front of the card. We selected the text, we changed it. There's also a backside. So you notice here where it says pages 1 of 2. So there is a backside to this as well. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the next page. And this is where I can change out the text for the particular, like the verbiage. This is going to be the part where the mailing stuff goes, the insignias and all that stuff. Now, all the text here, as you can see, it's all editable. This is a team logo, which I don't want to put in there. I'm going to leave that out. And I've uploaded my logos here, so I'm just going to replace that. We'll use the City Views one. And it's all drag and drop, as I mentioned. So everything that I'm doing right now, it's just dragging and dropping. I'm going to recenter that as well. And this is obviously not me, so I'm going to change my headshot out too. And it is in my library under images. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop that over. Download my app here. If I want to change that, I can also rechange that. This can be verbiage about the listing. I'm not sure what this Hi Jenny was supposed to be, but I'll leave that for now. I'm going to go back to the KWLS, and we do have the listing verbiage here, as you can see. We're going to just replace that. Awesome. And I'm going to make the sizing a little bit smaller so it fits. I'm just going to move that slightly. There we go. Very cool. So then what I'm also going to do here, I might just change this to say the listing address. So I'm just going to replace that here. I can either do that by using the typewriter tool, or I can go ahead and just replace that, as you can see, and I'm just going to move it to the side. Very cool. So the only thing really left to change on here is the app link, which off the top of my head, I don't know. So I'm going to open up my command again. I do have it saved on my dashboard here. Nice. And I'm just going to replace that here. I'm going to use that typewriter tool. There we go. So as you can see, that replaced that. If anybody wants to know where they can find their app link, if they're curious, after I finish this, I'll show you. And I'm going to use the typewriter tool again, just change out the name. So any of the text that I want to edit, I can just essentially click on the box, and I'll use this typewriter tool to change it, which makes it a little bit faster, a little bit easier, because typically you have to double click on it to edit. So if you use the typewriter tool, you can just go in. I almost forgot my number for a second. I'm gonna change out that email as well. And I don't like this capital, so I'm gonna change that. And my website link, I will just put in cgarefa.kw.com. And that looks good. Looks like we have everything changed. I just wanna quickly look at this for a second. Change that. There we go. Cool. So everything here looks good. I think we're good to go with that. We have our front side here. We have the back. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to download this so I can upload it as a custom template in my campaigns. And we're just going to call this 181 Nottingham Road V1. So the next step that we have to do is we have to download this. So we have to download both pieces as PDFs, which I'm going to do. You can also download them as PNGs. And before I do that as well, I want to make sure that the bleed is set up. So you notice here where it says manage bleed. This is going to be the line that cuts with the printer. So there has to be some sort of bleed on there for the printer. And I believe by default, it is set to a 0.125. And I believe with campaigns, it has to be 0.125. Let's just double check. Let's see here, direct mail. We do upload template. Setup. Oh, let's do custom template. Let's do an advertised listing. And if you're ever curious, you can download, they have like a standards manual, which will show you like how big they have to be. Now you can see here, before we do this, it's going to give you the ideas of the card sizes. So you can upload a compact, which is the 4x6. That's the one I'm going to use. You can use a default size, which is 6x9, and then a 6x11. Inside of Command, they have two different versions. They have standard and jumbo, I believe. And I believe jumbo is the large size here. So if you're curious about the sizing, if you want to do one of the larger ones, I believe it's called jumbo. We're going to use the compact, which is just the 4x6. And how I'm going to do this, we're going to go back to designs. So we have our design here. And I need to download this now so I can upload it. So we're going to go up to the top. And we're going to hit that download button here, which it's not letting me. Oh, sorry. Click that. And how I'm going to download this, I'm going to go to PDF. I'm going to go ahead and hit current design, and we're going to do high-res print quality. And we're also going to select use manual bleed. And then what we're going to do is hit start download. So this is the first page that we're downloading right now. If I open that up, it's going to be page 1. I'm just going to go to my downloads and just rename that front so I know which one I'm uploading first. Then I'm going to go to the back side and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to download. We're going to go to PDF, current design, high res, manual bleed. We're going to hit download. And that's going to be the back side of the card. And I'm just going to give that a second to download. Here we go. I'm just going to rename that one as well. I'm going to call this back. All right. So now we're all set. I'm going to drag these to my desktop as well, just so I have them there. There we go. Cool. Now we're going to go back into campaigns. So now we're ready to upload our custom design. And let's actually start from the beginning so we can see what we were doing. So we're back in campaigns now. I'm going to go to create a new campaign. And I'm going to go to direct mail. We're going to call this custom upload 6.8 advertise listing. We're going to go upload a custom design. And we're going to drag and drop from my desktop. We're going to take in the front side of the card. So I labeled it as front. And here's the front, as you can see. We're going to go ahead and go to the back now. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to go and drag that up. And this is the back of the card. And you notice it also will automatically detect what size it is, which is really cool. So it's saying, all right, you already uploaded this 4x6. We can hit continue. And if we want to preview this, because we don't have to design anything right now, we already designed it. We can hit preview and you can see here, here's the front. Here's the back. Awesome. And all we have to do is just give a return address. So I'm going to put in that return address again. And we don't need to upload a logo. We already have the logo on our card. Targeting, again, we have the ability to select the local targeting. We can target a database as well. We're just going to enter that return address again. And actually, sorry, this is using the address of the property because again, as you remember, we're using a custom card. It's not going to know right away what the address is. So I'm just going to redo that. And this is 07446. Cool. Save. And again, we can choose the postage quantity. Postage is already pre-selected as first class, as I mentioned, because it's a smaller card. We can't hover over these because it knows it's a 4x6. And it's the same price. So the price is exactly the same as before. When you edit your template, is it still editable? I'm just reading one of Andy's questions in here. You can edit the template in designs if you created it. So if you needed to go back and you wanted to edit this later, you can save it as a draft and then go back and re-upload the new design. I wouldn't go to step 2 because then it won't let you edit it again because it's going to essentially set it up for print.
Okay.
So if you need to make any changes at any point, save this as a draft and you can always come back and then re-upload the designs later on. So I do like with design specifically, you have a little bit more flexibility over how the design looks. As you can see, it's very, very clean. And everything's set up, everything's already set up specifically for prints, which is great. So let's go ahead and configure this now. We're going to go to step 2. We're going to configure, yes. Again, it's going to give me that same loading screen as before. And the same amount of targeting. So again, it's going to do the 200 around that address, and we can do the same sort of filtering. Let's do the square footage again. Year built. I'm going to go ahead and just move that over to the 2000s. Year sold, same thing. And then last sale for price, we'll just put it over here. So what it's going to try to do, it's going to try to find a properties within that criteria. Again, I can also draw out the radius if I wanted to with that polygon tool. Or we can increase the amount of cards that we want to send out, which would increase the amount of homes. And it's going to try its best to find homes within that criteria. It's a lot of cards, so it might take a little while. So obviously it's going to go a little bit into New York at that point. Let's go ahead and hit next. I'm also going to send myself a copy of it. Hit next. It's going to generate that preview. So just give it a second to generate. Same turnaround. The only difference that we did here is we created the design ourselves instead of letting the system do it for us. So the pricing is about the same. We just increased the amount of cards we're making. The first class postage is free, of course. Look at that. Perfectly formatted. So I didn't have to worry about cutting off any of the text. I didn't have to worry about going over the insignias or the return address. Very awesome stuff. And this was something we created in Command. So if you ever find yourself wanting to create a direct mailing piece within Command, you can use one of these templates. There's quite a lot of them, or you can create your own. You know, if you're feeling like crafty that day, you can go ahead and just start one from scratch.
Chris, where did you design it offline?
I designed this in the design tool in Command.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So we were all.
And I have this video recorded, so I am going to upload this and you can watch it again later. But I am in my design tool, and that's where I created this postcard specifically.
Okay.
Now, I don't necessarily have to use that template because I mentioned there is quite a lot of them in here. Standard size is going to be 4x6. If I go to just listed, you'll notice that they also have, oh, they don't have them in this one specifically. But they do have some that are also labeled as jumbo sized, which are, I believe those are 6x9.
And do they cost more to mail?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking to create a 4x6, a standard size 4x6, you can do that within your design tools now. You can also go into My Designs, and if you start from a blank template, you can create like a custom size. But for me, at least, having something already kind of pre-sized, I can kind of work off of. That's a lot easier. Miriam, I saw your question. Yep, I'm going to post this video a little later today on YouTube, which I want to just go over real quickly as well. Our YouTube channel, I'm going to go to it. It's Bergen County Partners. Let me just switch out of my account here. And Bergen County Partners is where you're going to be able to find the video clips. Simply just typing in Bergen County Partners on YouTube, you can follow us, you can subscribe. I'll post this video today so you can watch it later if you want. And as far as the design tools and uploading your own designs, that would basically be it. The process is exactly the same once you get it started. You're just going to select your target, review your proof here, which if we're creating it myself, I'm not going to have to necessarily review it because I already did it. Lisa, you're asking where you can find that app link. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So is everybody clear with this? That's basically how the design tool works with the direct mailing, which is awesome. Now define your app link. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this.
Yeah.
We're going to go out of this as well. Let's click out of that. And I'm back in Command. I'm going to click on this red button on the top. And I want to go down to where it says Consumer. So we're going to click Consumer. And under Consumer, I want to go where it says Site and App Settings right here. I'm going to click on that. And under site and app settings here, we have something called URLs. You click on URLs, you're going to have your app URL settings here, which is basically just your app link. You can't change it, so you can just copy and paste. And this would be the link that you can send to your potential clients or anybody that you want to have download your app. So this is basically like your app landing page. It gives you your link to both app stores, which is cool. And then it just gives you a little overview of what the app does. Nice, that nice little video trailer. And yeah, that's where you would find that, right in your site and app settings under the consumer applet. So that would answer your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Do you know if they added taxes to that app yet?
I know that's a very, very highly requested feature. I don't have any updates on that just yet, unfortunately, but I know that's something that they planned on adding. And I can find out more information, see if I can find out when we can expect that.
That'd be great.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Chris.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
So that would wrap up. Again, I'm going to have this video recorded and posted into our YouTube channel. So be sure, if you're not a subscriber, just to give that a quick subscribe and look out for that later. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday. Super nice out. Go outside.
I'm going for a walk right now.
Thanks, Chris.
Good stuff. All right, everybody have a great
Have a
day.
good day.
Take care.
Bye.